Hi, this is Ben Wilkinson. I thought I should introduce myself and give a little background, primarily to establish my credentials about what I feel is the need to make this video. I'm a retired aircraft avionics systems instructor. I've been employed as a civilian instructor by both the RAF and British Aerospace. I have more than 30 years of instructional experience, both in developing course material and creating course presentations. I have a passionate interest in the education of the younger generation. So when I hear the Chief of Ofsted talking about a national scandal, I feel I have to do something about it.
It's a national scandal, nothing less, that we invest so much in teacher training, and yet an estimated 40% of new entrants leave within 5 years. How many times have I heard that trainees have been inadequately prepared to deal with poor behaviour in the classroom?
So what is the problem? Is it bad students? I really don't think so. Or is it bored students? I suspect that's where the problem lies. Clearly there aren't enough teachers to go one-on-one with every student. But equally as clear is the fact that no one has the right to disrupt another student's education. So what can you do with the disrupted student? Well, you can put them in irons, or you can put them under armed guard, or you can send them to a room with access to computers. But that has to be a room where these pupils can be monitored by an adult. During my 30 very happy years of classroom time, many hundreds of hours of that time was spent creating my own course material and presentations. Here's a couple of examples. This is the opening slide of a presentation about tornado familiarization. That's for people training to be technicians working on the Tornado aircraft. I'm looking at this now thinking the artwork looks pretty antiquated, but it's quite a few years since I did this, easily more than 15 years ago. Of course, part of the introduction was to introduce the instructor, which in this case happened to be me. Here's another introduction for a totally different course. It's actually a course on the what's commonly referred to as the aircraft black box. Technically, it's the aircraft accident data recorder. And this course was about a particular kind of accident data recorder, namely the solid state accident data recorder. Nowadays, all aircraft should be flying with solid state accident data recorders. In the past, there's been many a time when aircraft have crashed and when they've managed to retrieve the black box, they found that data was missing, because in those days the tape recorders were, in many instances, magnetic tape was the recording medium, and during high G turns and things like that, the tape would be pulled away from the recording head. So to get around that, they come up with the solid state accident data recorder. But more importantly, the data is recorded in a particular form. There's actually a reading taken of many dozens, sometimes hundreds of systems are being monitored, but they're being monitored about every 7 seconds. So that data has to be retrieved, and it's no easy matter. It's easy to download the data, but the actual interpretation of the data required the setting up of this particular course. Now the next phase after the initial titling would be the motivational phase, where I would attempt to point out to the students just how critical it was to be able to recapture the information stored on these black boxes. So these are visual shots of various crashes, just to highlight the importance of retrieval of data about why the accident happened. Of course, the ultimate reward for this is to retrieve information which prevents a future accident. Now, I've never taught within the accepted educational system, but I see that as a good point, in as much as it means that I don't have blinkered vision. I'm not carrying the baggage of the perceived wisdom. It may well be that the most significant difference between my experience as an instructor and that of a school teacher is that at all times my students had a need for this knowledge. They saw the relevance of this knowledge and therefore paid greater attention. The subject matter of my courses was relevant to them and to their imminent future. I know this is a luxury that most teachers just can't have. In fact, the very timeline of education dictates that teachers can't have that luxury. However, I believe it is possible to substitute relevant to with a liking for. Undoubtedly, human nature dictates that students will do better at subjects they have a natural liking for, a leaning towards. This, of course, requires the discovery of what a student might find he or she has a passion for, and maybe even a great enough passion can be developed that they end up with this subject being a marker, a direction indicator as to a fruitful career path. Could I therefore put forward a proposal that disruptive pupils be sent to the PDP room? Pupil Designated Project Room, PDP, Pupil Designated Project. PDP room is to be monitored, only monitored by a non-teaching but computer literate person. This person will be there solely to monitor the collected group of disruptive pupils. Each disruptive pupil will be tasked with creating a 15-minute long PowerPoint presentation, but most importantly, a PowerPoint presentation on a subject of their choice. That's very important. The pupils may elect to work in pairs or in groups. This is a way of encouraging people to talk about, in a non-disruptive manner, talk about their ideas, exchange their ideas, begin to have empathy with other people, and so forth. But it is important that all of this takes place without intervention and with the knowledge that their presentation will be looked at by the school head. Also, it may be that they be asked to give their presentation to the complete school or to the Board of Governors. I think it's highly important right now to just stress that unless you've ever tried to put a PowerPoint presentation together, then you don't have any real idea of the educational value of creating a PowerPoint presentation. So please don't underestimate the value of these disruptive students being asked to create PowerPoint presentations. Because a PowerPoint presentation is, in my opinion, the ultimate intellectual jigsaw, where each piece of the jigsaw is created by the disruptive pupil. It allows them to show their creativity. It engages them by asking them to create the pieces of the jigsaw and come up with an overall presentation. I believe this way these pupils may become, if we're lucky, the new Harry Potter. Students' involvement will require using some, if not all, of the following skills. And I'm just going to leave you to glance over these headings to indicate just how comprehensive the coverage in most cases will be to put together not only asking the student to put together a PowerPoint presentation, but the actual giving of the presentation, especially to the school or the Board of Governors, will undoubtedly promote character and confidence. In fact, it's my opinion that if being sent to the PDP room becomes too popular, then a new teaching paradigm will have been born. I mean, even a presentation about football is an artistic palette to begin to explore other, perhaps even core subjects. Albert Einstein said, "Education is not the learning of facts, but the training of the mind to think." And who are we to argue with Albert Einstein? I feel that school is a place of discovery, either is or should be a place of discovery. There has never been a more exciting time to be young and at school. In all of history, there has never been such a diverse collection of knowledge in one easily accessible place. Access to presentation material probably beyond the skills and capabilities of teachers. Access to the very best university standard material, and it's free. 12 million videos in one place, including videos on maths, English, drama, geography, the sciences, history, and much more. Education brought to life before your very eyes. And probably the most important point is that these videos are infinitely repeatable over and over and over again until the penny finally drops. There's no point in moving on to another subject until, or another phase of a subject, until the basics, building blocks are in place. So repeated use of videos is a superb way to achieve sound foundations. And where are all of these places, these things kept? There's only one place. I'm talking about YouTube. Because in my opinion, video is today's library book. Here's the big question. Is your school your Discovery Channel? Because we need education by discovery, not by rote. My proposals actually make sound economic sense because it does not take a teacher to run the pupil-directed project scheme. The PDP room monitor does not have to be an expert on PowerPoint. It is for the disruptive student to discover how to convert their ideas on their subject creatively and put it together in a visual presentation. Along the way, they will be developing saleable skills for tomorrow's world of work. There are thousands of how-to videos waiting to be discovered. Standards are important, but the way to reach them doesn't have to be standardized. Going to school can be a looked forward to delight. Imagine your first introduction to Shakespeare was Macbeth, the movie. Or the next science lesson was a video on what you can see from the Hubble telescope. Or even history. Let's say Ben-Hur. Or more modern history, the Battle of Britain. Or learning ecology with Jacques Cousteau and Sir David Attenborough. Let's stop teaching to pass a test. Let lessons be relevant. That's the magic word. If students can't see the relevance, then is the time they become bored and disruptive. Look, we wouldn't say to a budding surgeon, you can only be a surgeon if you learn to play the piano first. And when is the last time a good surgeon used differential calculus? I'm sure he uses arithmetic often. But he needed an A-level maths to get into university to do a medical degree. Are we really incapable of asking the experts in their fields what are the truly relevant educational requirements to do a job well? And in conclusion, let's turn your school into a Discovery Channel. Just before we end, I'd like to ask you to take the time, please, to look at a totally separate video called School in the Cloud. It's on YouTube. Just enter in the search bar, School in the Cloud. It relates to a new pedagogy being proposed by Professor Sugata Mitra. Professor Mitra is currently Professor of Educational Technology at the School of Education, Communication and Language Sciences at Newcastle University. That's the Newcastle University in the north of England. He was awarded £1 million from the Bill Gates Foundation to allow him to develop his self-organized learning environment, SOUL. Self-organized learning environment pedagogy. He actually has this system running experimentally in 7 schools around the Newcastle and Gateshead area. It's all talked about in his School in the Cloud. Please, before you look at this, wipe your mind clear of any preconceived ideas of what education should be like. That's the end for now.